Hello friends, welcome to the channel. In this video we are going to practice application load balancer with AWS EC2 instances. So if you are new to these terms, then I prefer you to watch the previous video. The link is also given in the description box for a detailed explanation of each and every term related to this. But if you have a little knowledge, then we are good to go. So let's start. So this is the structure that we are going to implement. Here we have a VPC. We are going to use the default VPC with default availability zone of the instances and the default public subnet of that availability zone and the default route table. But first required step is to make the default subnet as a public subnet, and for that you need to edit the route table by adding this route. You need to add this route to your route table. This will allow your subnet to communicate with the outside internet. After this we can start working with the load balancer implementation, and for this first step is to create a security group dedicated to the load balancer, and next we also need to create another security group for the EC2 instances. So these are the first two steps. Next, for the security group of load balancer, you need to add the inbound traffic of HTTP from any source. Whereas for the security group dedicated to EC2 instances, you need to add two rules for the inbound traffic. First is SSH traffic is allowed from any source, and second required rule is to allow the HTTP traffic from the load balancer security group. So this is how you are linking these two security groups, and this security group means the security group of EC2 instance is supposed to receive traffic from the load balancer security group. Then you need to launch the EC2 instances under the second security group, and the fourth step is to create a target group, and here the target group will comprise of all your EC2 instances that you want to handle through the load balancer. And the fifth step is to create the load balancer, and then load balancer will be having association with the target group and with the security group of the load balancer. So these are the required settings to implement the load balancer. So let's start with the practical. Here this is my AWS console. We need to start by creating the security group, but firstly we need to check the route table settings in our VPC. So let's start. Here I am having only one default VPC. As mentioned, you can create your own VPC. Then you also need to create your gateway and the other settings related to subnet and the route tables. Here my VPC is running. Next we have the gateway. The gateway is also attached to the same VPC. And next you need to check the route table. So let's go to the route table. Here I have one route table defined that is associated with this subnet and the same VPC. So let's check the setting of this route table. Here I have both the routes defined for my route table. Like this is the IDR address of my VPC, and the target is local, and the second route required for route table is to allow the destination from anywhere, and the next target is your internet gateway. So you need to select your internet gateway and then save changes. I have not made any changes, so I just need to cancel this. Now let's start by creating the security group. For this, let's quickly create the security group for both load balancer and for the EC2 instances. So click create security group, give a name security group, and I am giving the same for description. It is linked with the same VPC, and let's make the changes. I am giving also the name for the tag. Next I need to add the inbound traffic rule. So click on add rule. Here I need to allow the HTTP traffic. So select HTTP, and source can be from anywhere. Just scroll down and create. So our security group is created. Let's quickly create another security group for the EC2 instances. also add the tag. So tag is optional. Now coming to the inbound traffic rule, now we need to add two rules. One for SSH traffic. SSH is allowed from anywhere. And second, we need to allow HTTP traffic from the first security group. So for that, select HTTP, and the source is your custom. Source should be custom, and here you need to select your first security group. This is security group for application load balancer, and create security group. So we are done with first two steps. Here you can check security group for EC2 and security group for load balancer. Next step is to launch EC2 instances. Just give a name, select machine type, t2.micro, keep here, and this setting auto assign public IP should be enabled. Now I'm not selecting VPC, I'm not selecting subnet. If you are not selecting your preference of your availability zone, then in that case your instance will be launched in the default subnet of the selected availability zone. So select existing group, as we had defined the security group for EC2. So just select that one, and for advanced details we are adding some script so that we can compare. I'm just using bash script with the title as server 1. For second server we will be using server 2, just to differentiate the response coming from different servers, and launch instance. Now quickly launch the second instance with the same security group. Just add your bash script to advanced details. As this is for server 2, and launch instance. Here both of our instances are created. By the time its state is pending, we can work with the target group creation. So let's create the target group as we discussed in the fourth step. So here the target group for instances, target group name, HTTP 80 port should be this, VPC, protocol version. Now you need to give the path where your index.html is placed. So this is the path for my bash script. Next, click next. Now it would ask you to add the instances to your target group. So select both of the running instances. As I need to add 2 instances, you may select more than 2, and then click on include as pending below and create target group. So here target group is created. Now the next step is to create the load balancer. So click on the load balancers, create load balancer, application load balancer. First one we have to select, create. Now let's give the name. Just give a name, internet facing IPv4, VPC is same, as I am having only one VPC. You are preferred to select all the availability zones over here because your instance may be launched in any of the default subnet of the availability zone. So select all of the availability zones over here, and next you need to define the security group. First, default is already selected. Next we need to define the security group where we edit the route for the HTTP traffic for load balancer. And that's it. Both of the security groups are listed here. And then comes the important stuff for listeners. Here the port is 80 and you need to select your target group. After this, just preview your summary and then create load balancer. So the load balancer is successfully created with 2 instances. So it would take a little longer time to get to active state. So the state is active now. You can select the load balancer for the details. So these are the details of your load balancer: VPC connected, subnet, availability zones, etc. Now next we need to select this DNS name. Just copy this DNS name, open the new tab and run the DNS. Now this is the DNS name of your load balancer, not your EC2 instances. We have received first response from the server 1. So let's refresh it. And the second response is also from the server 1. Let's refresh it again. And this time we are getting response from server 2. And refresh it again. A fourth time we are getting response from server 1. So this is how the load balancer works, by offloading the task among server 1 and server 2. So that's it for this video. I hope you have learned something. So take care and bye.